everybody, this is Patty Sliney, Handy Quilter National Educator, and we had an interesting question on one of the social media groups on Facebook. I believe it was Pro Stitcher Posse. One of our members, Deb, was asking if there was an easier way to crop away the bottom edge of a design, an all-over edge-to-edge design, when you get to the bottom and you realize that you don't need to maybe stitch out all that extra design at the bottom. And there is a way to do it. There's actually a couple of different ways. I think the easiest way is just to create a new area and crop away what you don't want, and I can show you how to do that. So we've got this design, and you're going to have to use your imagination since I'm in simulation. But let's say I am now down at the bottom edge of my quilt here. Zoom in so you can see. And I am going to place my crosshairs where I am, and I want to kind of show you what the bottom edge is. So I'm going to put my needle at the bottom edge here. So this is, imagine this to be your bottom left corner of your quilt top. So if you look at this sort of upper right quadrant of my crosshairs, that's where my quilt top is. And the bottom left corner is right there. So I don't need to stitch all of this out. I just need to maybe have the design go about a ½ inch below the bottom edge of my quilt top. So that way I'm still stitching out into the batting a little bit, and that assures me my quilt top is totally covered with stitches. So here's how to crop away all this excess that we don't need. It's very simple. I'm going to go ahead and move my machine needle into the batting and to the left of my stitches and down about a ½ inch. And that's where I'm going to place my new area's first point. But first off, I've got to get rid of my current area. A couple ways to do it. You can do File, Close, Area, or you can go to the Area tab and in the right sidebar, touch Clear. So now I'm ready to set my new area, and I'm going to set an area that's going to capture all of this excess here that I don't need to stitch out. So I'm going to drop my first point right here, and again, my machine needle is in the batting to the left of all of my stitches, and obviously the left edge of my quilt top, and about a ½ inch below the bottom edge of my quilt top, because I want to stitch out into the batting underneath the bottom edge of my quilt top. So then I'm going to take my machine and move the needle all the way over to the right side, again making sure I'm well beyond my stitches, both on the right margin and the bottom margin, and drop my second point. Now, let's say you had a lot more stitches than this. Let's say you had 12 inches of stitches and you couldn't get your needle down to capture all of the stitches because your bar's in the way. Not a problem. Go down as far as you can, set the second point like I did. You'll have a small box, and then you just touch into the height, type a number that you know is going to capture all the stitches, press enter, and just make your area box taller. So I have captured what I want to crop away. Don't want to stitch any of this out. All I need to do is go to Modify, Crop, and I want to crop out what's inside this area. So I will touch Inside, close my edges, and I should baseline. Now when I baseline, that is going to jump my start point, my bullseye start point, back to the first row, which obviously I don't want it there. No problem, I can just jump this start point down to that last row, the last partial row, by going to Pro Stitcher, New Start End, and under the Start column in the right sidebar, use your bottom arrows, and you're going to use the bottom down arrow to jump that start point down to your last row. That's how you crop away the excess design at the bottom edge. And if the area box bothers you, no problem, get rid of it. And then you can finish stitching this partial last row. So that's what I think is the easy way, but sometimes you will have a situation where you are at the bottom of your quilt and you realize, let me get my crosshairs again, your machine is here, and here's the bottom edge of your quilt top. Again, imagine with me that this upper right quadrant kind of represents your quilt top, and this is your bottom left corner again of your quilt top. And you're looking here and saying, you know what? I only need to stitch out this row. I do not need to stitch this row out at all. None of it. So, not a problem. We can just get rid of this entire row by using modify crop start end. And all we have to do is bump up our stop point, our bullseye stop point up here, and crop out this. So it's very easy to do. So I know that some of this second to last row is going to stitch down into the batting. Might be an inch or so. I'm okay with that, but I just don't want to stitch all of this out. So that's how. How to get rid of that without creating a new area? Very simple. Let's just go to Pro Stitcher, New Start End, and I'm going to jump my stop point up a row. So now I'm going to show you. I'm telling Pro Stitcher I only want it to stitch everything from here to here. This is not being considered now. So I can just leave it like this if I want, and then make sure my bullseye start point is where it should be on this second to last row, and it'll stitch out this last row for me. If I want to get rid of this, if it bothers me that it's on the screen, I don't want to see it, not a problem. Just go to Modify, Crop, Start End, and I can baseline and stitch out that last row. Easy peasy. Now, some of you may have flipped out because you saw all of this gone. Remember, it is cropping away what is outside of the start and stop points. Now, in real life, your bullseye start point would still be up here. Because of the coding that's included in Pro Stitcher, this bullseye start point doesn't move. So your bullseye start point would actually be up here. And so when you did a modify, crop, start end, you would really only be removing the bottom row here. However, once you baseline, which you should do, you're going to now need to jump this down. So Pro Stitcher knows to start at that last row, and it will just stitch out this last row for you. So I hope that makes some sense. That's a couple of different ways of cropping away the bottom edge of a design. Another interesting way we can use modify, crop, start end is with a design motif. Maybe there's a design that we've seen that we really like, and there's a piece of it that we'd like to kind of isolate and use as maybe a motif or a block. I can show you how to do that. It's real simple. So let's see if I have my little design. I'll open it up. I have a cute little design, and it is from My Creative Stitches. Here, I'm already in the folder. It's a little ladybug design that I've used before. And it's got a cute ladybug and a cute flower in it. And I can isolate each of those and save them if I want as separate little motifs. So this is the design. And it has these pretty flower motifs and these cute ladybugs. So let's say I just want to isolate this, and I'd like to use this pretty flower somewhere in a quilt. I can move my start point, so it's up about here, and then move this stop point all the way back through the design and then all the way back up to here and crop out all of this. So if I'm going to baseline it just to get started. It's always good to do. And I'm going to move my start point for the ladybug to about 12.45. I kind of practiced with this ahead of time. And I'm going to move it down by design points, and I can hold this down and you can see my start point moving along the stitching line till I get to about 12.45. And that puts it in about the right spot. Okay, that's a little too high, so I'm going to move it by tiny increments backwards. There we go. So I'm at 12.45. And I'll zoom in so you can see. So that's where I've placed my start point. So that means all of this is now not going to be considered and can be cropped away. So now let's move the stop point back to the start point. I'm using my slider bar because that'll make it go faster, and I want to get to about 100.15. So if I just go all the way back to about 100.15. There we go. Again, let me zoom in. We're pretty much right on top of each other. So now the only thing that's being considered is starting here, stitching out the flower, and stopping. So if I go to modify, crop, start end, boom. All of that's gone. So let's see how clean a job I did. I'm going to zoom in, and then I'm going to turn off my start ends. Looks pretty good. So then I would do a file, save, select it, and then find a place in my folders. I usually have like a miscellaneous. I'm not going to save it, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So here's my file path. I'm in a miscellaneous folder that I keep, and then I would just rename it and click save. Okay. So let's try to do that again. Let's see if I can undo that. Okay, we undid it. Now let's say I want to just save the ladybug. I'd like to isolate the ladybug and save the little ladybug. Same process. I'm going to move my start point for the ladybug to 103.61. Too far. There we go. And then move my stop point to 167.61. Go. And again, I'm in zoom, so I'm going to zoom in. That looks pretty good. I'm sort of right on top of it where these two lines intersect. So if I go to modify, crop, start end, let's zoom in, see how clean I did a crop, turn off my start ends. Ooh, that looks pretty perfect. And so I can now save this as a flower. Actually, it's a ladybug. And I'll rename my other one as a flower. So that's how you can use modify, crop, start end in a couple of different ways on an all over edge to edge or in a design element when you want to isolate a part of that design element and use it as a motif or a block. Hope this is helpful. Enjoy.